This is Nithin Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 952. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Anchor, on all the podcast platforms. So everyone, please tune in. I'm joined by a really special guest. You can find him on Fox Sports. His name is Rob Parker. He has a show called The Odd Couple with Chris Brousssard, NBA insider, analyst. And he also has a podcast called Parker Podcast, and he's part of MLBBro.com and Deadspin. He does a lot of stuff in the sports industry, one of the biggest analysts in the game. And first of all, Rob, I just want to say thank you for joining the show today. It's truly an honor and getting to learn more about your story. So how are you and your family doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite. And happy holidays to everybody out there.
Yeah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and New Year's is upon us. So great things happening here for us. So first of all, Rob, I want to start off with when did you get interested in the sports industry and becoming an analyst? And what was your process like going through that? And who would you say your role model was?
Yeah, it started early. I wanted to be a baseball player. I grew up in New York. I wanted to play first base for the Mets. And then at a certain point in age, you realize I'm not that good. You know what I mean? Like to be a major league player. So I was like, well, what else could I do? And this is a true story. There was a TV show called The Odd Couple.
Right.
It's about, it was starring Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. And it was about a sloppy sports writer who lived with a finicky, clean photographer, and they shared an apartment, and they were both divorced. And I looked at the character by Jack Klugman. Oscar Madison was his name. He was a sports columnist for the New York Herald.
Wow.
And I was like, this dude has the greatest job in the world. He writes about sports. He travels the country, and I love sports. And I had a teacher when I was in second grade. So in second grade, you're 7 years old. True story. Her name was Miss Noble. And she said to me, she pulled me aside from class one day, and she said, Robert, when you grow up, you should be a writer. You're an excellent writer. Can you imagine a second grade teacher identifying me at 7 years old as a person who had a writing skill? So that was in the back of my head. My love for sports was the other side. And I said, well, if I don't make it to the major leagues, I'll be a sports writer. I'll be Oscar Madison. And that's really how I got on track to be a sports writer. No one in my family's ever been on TV or radio or written for a newspaper or anything like that. So it was really a TV show, a teacher in second grade, and my love for sports. And here I am 35 years later.
Well, that's an amazing story right there. And for you, growing up in life and going through high school, did you get to, as you were becoming a better writer from second grade to now, in high school and college, did you get to cover the sports teams that were in high school and college? Did you get to cover them?
Yeah, I did. I wrote for the high school newspaper called The Beeline, and there's another good story that people should listen to, only from the standpoint that anything's possible. So I'm in high school. I'm writing for the school paper, but back then there was no website. You had to write a story and send it to the printer, and they had to typeset it and print it and then bring it back. So it took forever, the process. So you would write a story about the boys' basketball game in October, and the paper would come out in February or March. It'd be baseball season. So the process took too long. So I went to the principal my junior year, and I said, hey, I want to start an all-sports newspaper that comes out once a month.
Yeah. So
the principal looked at me, said, nope, can't do it. First of all, the kids are only going to throw it on the ground as trash. Can you imagine an educator telling you that a kid interested in journalism that,
that's crazy.
This is just trash. That's what he told me. I'll never forget him. Wow. Never forget that meeting. And then he said, we don't have money to print the paper. So I said, well, if I raise the money myself, can I do the paper? He said, yes. So I went home to my house, to my kitchen, pulled out my typewriter, and I wrote 3 letters. And they were all to the publishers of the New York City newspapers where I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter to the New York Times, to the Daily News, which was my favorite paper, and to the New York Post.
Wow.
The Daily News didn't write me back. The New York Times wrote me back and said that it was against their company policy to help other people start newspapers. So I opened this up. I'm like, I'm 16. This is high school. Really? Like, I'm competition for the New York Times. I couldn't believe somebody wrote a 16-year-old a letter saying it was company policy not to help somebody start a newspaper. But the last, then the envelope came, and it was from the New York Post.
Yeah.
And I look at it, I open it up, and there's a little letter in there, but there's also a check for $50 to start the paper.
Wow.
And I was blown away. 1980 this was. I was 16, 1980. And guess who was the publisher of the New York Post at that time?
Who?
Rupert Murdoch, who of course runs Fox, and who I wound up working for at Fox.
That's crazy.
So I addressed the letter to him. I don't know if he ever got it. I did when I met him at Fox Sports 1. I relayed that story and told him, and he was like, really? I was like, absolutely. Whoever opened his mail or whatever in his office, I don't know if he did it or whatever, but they sent me a check for $50 to start the paper. And I covered high school sports, and I went to college, and I covered the local teams, on campus and whatnot. And so I just started covering sports.
Wow. So I'm just curious. I want to go back to your second grade teacher real quick. Do you still keep in touch with her? And do you tell her? Do you always tell her thank you for what she said back in second grade?
Years ago, I went back. This is back in the 80s when I started working in New York after I graduated college. But I lost touch with her. But I was always thankful that she recognized my talent and put that bug in my ear. That's how important educators and education is. I mean, if you tell a kid that they're a bum and they're no good, people, they'll believe they're no good. And if you tell somebody that things are possible and that they're talented and they should, pursue something that they have a skill in, I think it works the other way. So I was very thankful. Miss Noble, I'll never forget her.
Yeah, so now obviously before you went to Fox Sports, you got to do some work for ESPN. You worked with ESPN also. And what was that experience? Tell our fans, what was the experience like working for ESPN, another big outlet to Fox Sports? And what was that like for you?
It was great. I mean, I worked there for 8 years, and I was on a number of shows and had great relationships with a lot of people. I mean, it didn't end the way I wanted it, obviously, but I still say when people ask me about my experience there, I had 8 great years minus 1 day. I had never been in trouble, never had any issues there. So I enjoyed my time at ESPN. I don't have a bitter memory of ESPN at all. And I was a newspaper columnist in Detroit, and I would go back and forth, and I did First Take. I was on the old Cold Pizza with Skip Bayless way before First Take. So I've been around and been a part of the sports debate for a long time. So I feel like I was one of those guys who were in the forefront of it when we first started it. First it was Skip and Woody Page.
Yeah.
And then me and Brousssard and Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, and those guys came along, and we all used to rotate and do the show. So I feel a part of, the whole thing.
Yeah. So speaking of debate, I always watch First Take Undisputed. So for you, what's it like when you're on the debate shows? It can get heated sometimes, but what's it like working with Stephen A. Smith, Molly Qerim, and all these other cats you just mentioned, Skip Bayless and
right. I never worked with Molly. I was gone before she came. Jay Crawford was the host when I was there, but it was great. I mean, everybody, it's a debate. It's a sports debate. It's not life or death. It's not serious. But everybody's passionate about what their point of view is and trying to articulate the point. And the big thing for me is you're not going to get everybody to agree with you.
Yeah.
It's really about just making a compelling argument. So even if you disagree with me, you might say, well, I know how Rob got there. This makes sense. I don't agree with it, but I understand. You don't want to have it where you're totally just dismissed, where people don't feel you have any kind of footing to have this opinion. Always remember when you guys were trying to do this and debate and talk shows or whatever, ask yourself this: based on what? Where you got your opinion from? Based on what? If you can't answer that, then it's not a legit opinion. It's got to be based on something, not just your gut, not because you want to be opposite the crowd, not because you want to say something crazy. Based on what? And if you can answer that question, then you can put together a valid argument. And even if people don't agree with you, they can respect that you put in some work, some research, and you have a valued opinion, even if they don't agree with it.
Yeah, so this is a two-part question. So tell our fans, what was the process like of getting the Fox Sports job? How did that come about, Fox Sports? And also the next part, how did the Odd Couple show come about? And what's it like working with Chris Brousssard?
Well, Fox, after after I left ESPN, I went back to Detroit and basically worked local TV, which I was doing while I was at ESPN, just that. And then Skip Bayless got the job back out here in Los Angeles, and wanted me to join back in and doing the debate stuff and being a constant contributor. So that's really how I got to Fox Sports. And one of our big bosses used to work at ESPN too. So they all knew my work. They knew what I did. And so it was a natural fit. I didn't really know Shannon like that.
Yeah.
But he's great and he does a great job and he's prepared and he's really good at what he's doing. So that's how I got to Fox. And Fox Sports Radio was actually 5 years ago last Saturday, where I filled in for my first time at Fox Sports Radio. And the boss at Fox Sports Radio, Scott Shapiro, used to be the producer of Mike and Mike. And on Mike and Mike at ESPN, I used to fill in every so often for either Greeny or for Mike. So that's how I got to know Scott. I came up, he gave me a chance to do some fill-in work during the holidays.
Wow.
And that was 5 years ago. And I'm into my 6th year at Fox Sports Radio, which is great. It's been a great run. I love the people there. I love what we do. I love the whole, we have a great lineup with very different opinions and different people. So it's good. It's not the same coming from all the shows. And the Odd Couple, Chris and I were doing separate shows. I was doing a Saturday show and Chris was doing a Sunday show. And our boss, the big boss, Don Martin, heard me on Chris Broussard's basketball podcast.
Right.
And he was like, why aren't you guys on together? We're like, well, we're not. We're on separate shows. He said, I listened to that basketball podcast. It was fantastic. The chemistry you guys had, you guys should be on together. So they put us on a show together for about 4 or 5 months. The chemistry was natural. It was good. It was a give and take. We are really opposite. We are the Odd Couple. And then after that, they offered us a full-time show. And now it's been 3 years plus a few months. So we're excited and thrilled. Our, following continues to grow. The show is up to like 2.7 million downloads a month, which is an incredible number. So we're thrilled. We're thrilled with it. And we appreciate the support and the kind words about the show.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. Obviously, I love what you guys do there. Talk about obviously different various of different topics. And you guys keep up the great work because I love the show. And also, not only that, you have your own podcast called Parker Podcast, and you're part of MLBBro.com and Deadspin. So what's that been like for you to have multiple things as analysts?
So the podcast is called Inside the Parker. It's an all baseball podcast. And during the season, it drops every Thursday. It's all over, all the places you find podcasts. It's a lot of fun. 30 minutes, all baseball. I'm a Baseball Hall of Fame voter. I love baseball, love talking about it. And the podcast is doing very well as well. A lot of subscribers to it, a lot of downloads. So I'm thrilled. In the off season, we do it once a month, the first of every month. So we'll have another one coming up January, I should say. What's the next one? No, February 2nd. I think February 2nd is the next one. But it's a lot of fun. And the MLB Bro, if you check out that website, we only cover Black and brown players on that website. And again, it's an extension of my love for baseball and getting the stories about Black baseball players, their impact, current, past. We have all kinds of great stuff on there. We do a segment every week called Homeboy Highlights, where we highlight the best Black or brown player in the league every week, which is a lot of fun. And Deadspin, I write 2 columns and do 1 video every week for Deadspin.com. And I write on a variety of sports. I've had a sports column since 1993. Was my first sports column in Detroit at the Free Press. So I write, what I like to consider hard-hitting and very deep kind of column twice a week. And then I do a video called Trash Talking Tuesday, where I usually trash someone or something in the world of sports.
Yeah. So speaking, a couple more things here before I let you go. And what are your thoughts on this lockout? How frustrating is it that now we have a lockout in baseball? Do you think it can get resolved quickly here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's now in the winter and not the start of spring training. All the lockouts have not caused any games to be missed. It's when you have player strikes. If you wait till March and they strike, then there's a better chance you're going to miss regular season game. I'm optimistic about the players and owners getting something together. Baseball's really healthy. They signed great big TV deals. You saw all the money the owners spent at spring training. I mean, free agency. So I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah. So what are your so what would you say your best moment or funniest moment so far as an analyst in your career?
I don't know. Probably one of the funniest is after Tom Brady won his sixth Super Bowl. Everybody came and everybody thought I was going to crumble and grovel and crown him the GOAT and all that. And I came up with a routine about him being the LOAT, the luckiest of all time. And I chronicled all the lucky things that have happened for him. And it's caught on. So that's one thing, the LOAT. The other one, a lot of people like in Detroit on the radio, when I worked in Detroit for 20 years on the radio, and fans used to call Matthew Stafford Stat Patford. And so that kind of caught on. So we use that a lot. People love that nickname. So there's a couple of things like that. And that I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah. Are you concerned with the NBA right now? Because all these players are going out left and right on the COVID protocol, and the teams have to sign players from the G League or somewhere else. Are you concerned? Do you think the NBA should shut down for a couple of weeks?
I just don't think they want to miss any time, and they're going to have to just fight through it. I think the only time they're going to have to do it is when they really don't have enough players. And we've seen games postponed. So I think if it gets to that point, I think they will. But I think they want to play through it and let the band keep playing despite what's happening, because this is the new norm. I don't think this is what we got to kind of deal with and live with.
So before we get to the last few things, who's the funniest person that you work with right now?
Funniest? Good question. Jonas Knox. Jonas Knox is on the morning show called Two Pros and a Cup of Joe on Fox Sports Radio. When Jonas and I fill in and work together, we laugh the whole 3 hours. I mean, he gets my humor, I get his. It's a fun time. Jonas Knox is the funniest.
Yeah. So the last two things here before I let you go. Our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now the head coach for Grambling State University.
Right. We just had him on our show. Yep, I know Hugh real well. Yep.
Yeah. So we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. And so we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
I'll definitely do that. I'm glad. That sounds like that's work that needs to be done.
Yeah. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Yeah, I mean, God bless you to continue to do the work that needs to be done, be out there on the front lines. My mom was a nurse's aide growing up, so that's in my family, people taking care of other people. So everybody can't do it. It's a unique job skill set in order to be caring and nurturing and being able to take care of the people who are in extreme pain and suffering. And without them, I don't know where we would be. So I appreciate all medical people, doctors, nurses, and front office and frontline people.
So before we close this out, would you like to plug anything where people can find you?
Well, yeah, you can always go to my website, getrobbed.com, GETROBBED, getrobbed.com. Has plenty of stuff on there. You can find out when I'm going to be on certain shows and what I'm doing. If I have a new book coming out, things like that. And also the baseball website, MLB Bro, BRO, MLBBro.com.
Well, there it is. That wraps up episode 952 with the great Rob Parker. You can find him on Fox Sports Radio. He's part of the show called Odd Couple with Chris Brousssard. They're both great analysts, and they have a great show. And go check them out go watch, go follow Rob Parker. He's one of the best out there in the business. I just want to say thank you, man, for joining the show on short notice, and keep up the great work. I know you're a busy man, a busy time of the year. Happy holidays to you and your family. Happy New Year. Have a great rest of the year, and looking forward to next year. And down the line, at some point, hopefully we can get you back on the show so you can meet the full team. But like I said, keep up the great work. You're the GOAT and one of the best. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, man. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Appreciate you too much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.